Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Serena and today I'm going to be sharing with you my #1 witchy craft addiction right now. Watch this video. Alright guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have not already subscribed to this channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, like and comment on this video. Share it with somebody that you love if you're feeling generous. It helps me reach new people and I would love to be reaching new people. So this video today is super exciting and this actually comes in from a request that I had on one of my previous videos. And this is all about upcycling or witchy DIY crafts, things like that. So I just want to put a disclaimer out there and say that I've always been into art. I've always been into crafting. I've always been into making things. Like when I was a kid, I would collect bottle caps. Like we would go camping and I would collect bottle caps wherever I was, and I had this big stack of bottle caps, and then I would make things out of them. I would put holes in them and make the cool ones into necklaces. I would put a bunch of them together in like a mosaic pattern. Like I just love to make things out of things that already exist in the world. Or things that I find. I find that such a beautiful progression to make things out of something that you found, because it's like recycling it and giving that thing a whole new purpose and a whole new life. Everything that I make a lot of times comes from nature. There's not a whole heck of a lot that I will craft or make that doesn't have some sort of natural element to it. And believe me, even when I was a kid and I was super into Harry Potter, I would make wands. Me and my friends would go out in the backyard and we would find pieces of wood and we would whittle them and we would make wands. So crafting for me is very inherent in my life experience. Also for the last 5 or 6 years of Christmas, my family has been doing made Christmas gifts. So let me even show you. I have one of my made Christmas gifts that I actually keep with me all the time that I have crafted, and each one of my family members has one of these as well. So this is, I think this was maybe not last year, but the year before. And basically what it is it's a keychain, right? So I got this crystal, and each one of my family has a different crystal on the bottom depending on what it is they needed. And if you've never done research on crystals and what they're good for, I highly recommend looking into that kind of stuff. I am not a crystal master by any means. I do carry some crystals with me, and if you want to watch this video, I will link it above. This is my travel altar kit. So if a lot of you guys don't know, I actually am living out of one bag still, so I do bring a travel altar with me. You can watch this video if you want to look at how to make your own travel altar or what I put in mine. But this was one of the things that was in my travel altar, and this was made by me, so it has a few different beads in it. Each one has a different meaning, right? So the pearl is a goddess bead, then there's an amethyst, there's a, what is this one? I'm gonna forget the name, starts with a C, carnelian. And then this one's supposed to represent diamond, and then this one is a serpentine. So, and then this on the bottom here is a smoky quartz. So even things like this, I make a lot of things, and all of these stones in here and the pearls are all found in nature. So a lot of the things I will actually go out and find myself. This was pretty much all bought things that I put together, but that's not how all of my crafts are. I prefer to find things in nature and then put them together for that. My obsession right now that I've been in terms of craft mode has actually been macrame. And macrame, so I used to make friendship bracelets when I was a kid, and I would make all kinds of different patterns with all kinds of different colors, and I'm finding that macrame is actually really similar. It's just a larger version of it. So I've had a lot of fun playing with these knots. I actually also use sustainable yarn. So the yarn that I use, and I wish I still had the you know, the casing for it because it says on it like eco yarn, but this is the one that I use for my macrame. Unfortunately, I'm in South Africa in Plettenberg Bay, so it's actually really hard to find good macrame yarn out here. So this is one that's specifically made for macrame, and I have it basically in a few different colors. So I have a black and a blue, and then, you know, of course, the OG kind of macrame color. But yeah, these I have really liked a whole heck of a lot. If I can find them, I will put them in the description link, but honestly, if you're in the States, you probably have better access to better macrame anyways, so I'm just gonna put that out there. But yeah, so some of the things that I have made so far are things like this. So this is just a little piece that I made. The wood I found on the beach as I was walking. I just liked it. I picked it up, I brought it home, I took any bark off of it, I sanded it, and then yeah, I made some knots on it. So this kind of have almost like a little kind of like flower of life kind of feel to it. And then I really wanted it to just, you know, fit with what's going on with the rest of it. So I always like a mix, like in my own crafts, of like natural and then like geometric. Like I always like this mix of like geometric and organic like together. So I really wanted part of this to feel very geometric, which is this part, and then this to feel like a lot more natural. So it just looks like all the yarn is just wrapped around and just kind of hanging, almost like it's like undone kind of a thing. And then now, of course, the wood is just beautiful. It was a piece of driftwood that washed up on the shore, and I was like, this is coming home with me. Same thing with like something like this, right? So this is a beautiful shell, as you can see. It's massive. And so I actually use this with my Palo Santo. A lot of people do this, right? But a lot of people will find these in the store and buy them. This I actually got in South Africa in St. Francis when I was there visiting with my friends and my boyfriend. And they were having a surf trip and we were scouring the beach, and this beauty popped up, and now I use it. Sometimes I'll stick in incense in the little hole here, and I'll have an incense going, or I use it for my Palo Santo or sage, whichever one I'm using at that time. So again, this is another thing that's super easy and beautiful, and it adds that touch of nature back into your home or your life or wherever you need it. Yeah, some other stuff that I've been working on. Here's another macrame, and some of these things I'm going to potentially start selling here in South Africa. But right now it's just been a fun thing for me to make. So again, I found the driftwood on the beach, and then I just started playing around with knots. I really liked how there was a lot of dark pieces in the wood here, so I was like, ooh, I kind of want to go with the black to really like pull out the dark in the wood as well. So that was pretty fun and cool to make. This one's this was the first one that I ever made. And so this one is actually inspired by numerology. So a lot of the things that I make kind of have secret meanings to them. So this one specifically, if you count all of the rows that are up here, there's 17 rows. And then there is 10 rows of black, and then 7 rows of black here. So I was really playing on this one, and then it goes down 17 as well. So it's like a sacred numerology kind of thing, and I was really playing with the ideas of 1s and 7s, and 1s kind of being like the beginning of a journey, and 7 kind of being like that spiritual number. So my intention for whoever might get this is that they're like, you know, it's infused with this sacred numerology, and so that is going to have an activating vibration for them. So on things that you make as well, remember that your intention is the most important part of whatever it is that you're making. And a lot of times if I'm ever stuck, like I want to create something but I don't know exactly what to create, I'll just ask whatever I found, like, what do you want to be? You know, what do you want to be? What should I create from you? And so The next one that I'm going to be doing is this one. It's going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be for James's birthday. So I'm very excited. I'll show you guys this one when it's done. It's going to take a lot of yarn, so it's probably going to be pretty expensive. And then this one I thought was so beautiful. I haven't done anything with it yet, but I couldn't pass it up. I thought it was just such a beautiful piece. I think there's so much you can do with it, with this little part as well, and having different macrame pieces that are gonna, fall off of it. So this to me, I thought was just super beautiful. I couldn't pass it up. I love wood. I love working with wood. So that's literally one of my favorite elements to work with is wood. I think it's so cool and so beautiful. So yeah, and then one thing that I do that might be a little bit different than what other people do is I try to be as zero waste as I can be. So of course, when you're making macrame, you end up with like a lot of random little pieces like this falling off all over the place because you're cutting them and you don't need those pieces. So what I then do and try to be as sustainable as possible and as zero waste as possible is I make these beautiful little like tassel-y feathers. So this one actually is not done yet. What I actually have to do on this one is spray like a stiffening spray in it and then to cut it in the shape of like a feather or a leaf. So you might have seen these. These are very common, but they're super easy to make and they're perfect to make honestly out of all the scraps from the other yarn. So my mind is always working in this way where it's thinking like, okay, how can I waste as little bit as possible, or how can I put these pieces that I didn't use for this into something else? And so that has been a really cool experience for me, is to be able to use things and repurpose things in a variety of different ways with the macrame. And that's something I've never had the experience of doing before, so it's super exciting. The last thing and the most recent thing that I made, which I think is super fun and super cool, this is again a macrame piece, is this little wine holder. So it basically is super simple. I put a little tassel on the end because I thought it was cute, and it has these little purple accents because I'm actually giving it as a gift. So this is going to be for, and you can put it over your arm like this, and you can carry your wine around with you, or anything. I think we're gonna put like a tequila or something like that. You could even put a water bottle in here if you wanted to. It doesn't just have to be for wine, but I thought the wine looked very cool in there. So, and this is super easy to make. You need 8 pieces of string, maybe something to put on the top here if you like the way that looks. All you do is make 2 knots here and here, and then you put a few knots in here in almost like a diamond shaped pattern, and then you comb out all of the string at the bottom in order to make this little tassel. So super simple, super easy. It does take a decent amount of the string to make it, but honestly, I think it's worth it. And the cool part from here is you can adapt that pattern to what I have thought of, which is to making then like grocery bags or produce bags. You can use that same exact pattern to make a produce bag so that you're being sustainable. So I've also made some coasters, which you've probably seen these as well. They're like all over the place, but they're basically like a little swirl pattern. And so then you have, a sustainable coaster as well. So for me, what's the most important is making things out of things that already exist or out of things that I'm finding. Of course, obviously, I'm not finding and making my own string. Like those are things that I am purchasing. But the fact that it's eco-friendly string and it was made in a responsible, sustainable way is very important to me. And of course, I have tons of other fun DIY things that I like to do because I'm always doing a project. Like, I never don't have a project going on, and I know that was horrible grammar, but I do find it super fun to just always be creating and be crafting, and my brain is always working in ways of like, what can we repurpose these things for? So for example, one of our coffee jars, we just repurposed and took the label off and then wrote all over it little almost like spells, like a honey pot spell if you've ever, or a honey jar spell if you've ever used one of those. So we used our coffee jar, and we basically are creating a abundance jar for our travel fund. So we put on the front of it like a travel fund, and then we wrote on it with Sharpie, I think it was like gold Sharpie, different affirmations like, we want wealth to come to us easily, and every dollar that we put in here multiplies by 4 or 5, you know, like just things like that that make you feel good. But yeah, definitely macrame has been the thing that I've been obsessed with lately and that I've been really, really enjoying, especially being out here in South Africa by the water, by the ocean. It gives you so much like, you know, nautical vibes that it's been really fun to work with rope, and really fun to work with this just beautiful, beautiful wood that has washed up, and like to give it a new life and to repurpose it. So I highly recommend, you know, if you're out and about in the forest, in the woods, and you're walking around, or if you're on the beach. I do have a friend, her name is Faye, and she makes these beautiful, so she finds these little seashells that are just littered all over the beaches, and what she does actually is she melts wax into them and then paints the rim of them gold and then puts a candle wick in them. So she repurposes these shells that have washed up on the beach that are at the end of that life, and she gives them a whole new life as candle and little candle pieces, and she sells them in a box of few. And so this is a way to, you know, use your creativity, use the natural elements of the earth in a sustainable way that doesn't hurt, you know, it doesn't hurt anybody, or it's not hurting the earth, you know. There's a lot of people that sell seashells or crafts or things like that, and they weren't made in a sustainable way, but also they may have hurt the people that were making them, you know. I'll share a quick story, because one of the biggest things that had an impact on me when I first arrived in Cape Town was we were walking down downtown Cape Town, and we had come across this little like open market. And so they were selling all kinds of like metalwork and paintings and beads and just like all sorts of like African things. And I remember walking in there, and I had like an intense wave of just like grief and like unfair working conditions, and like all of this stuff washed over me in this market, because everything that they were selling was essentially from people that were like pushed into basically like slavery in order to make those things. So they weren't getting paid decent wages. They were forced to create these things, and it didn't come from, you could feel it the moment you walked in there. It didn't come from a place of I want to be creating. It's coming from a place of like I'm being forced to create these things. And that's unfortunately a lot of our tourism and marketplaces. A lot of the things that are being sold there aren't by actual local artisans, and are not actually supporting the local economy. So they might say made here in Africa, but that doesn't mean it was made by somebody that you're actually helping sustain the local community and the local economy. So it's really unfortunate, and you know, it makes me sad, because I think there's so much more we can be doing in this space. But sometimes honestly, just getting creative and crafting your own stuff from what you're finding locally is the best way to go about it. And I know like a lot of times I'll repurpose, you know, jars and things like that and make candles out of jars. So there's no shortage of things that you can do if you're a little bit creative. Even things like sea glass, like finding sea glass, or you know, regular beer bottles, if you crush them, and you can make mosaics out of them as well. There's so many things that you can do if you just have like a little bit of a creative spark and a little time and a little patience. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like and comment, subscribe down below. I would love to make more videos like this. What else do you want to see? Was this helpful for you? You know, which projects did you like the most? Have you ever tried macrame? What is it that you make? What type of products or crafts do you like to make that are sustainable or that also are upcycled? I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time. Big love, Serena.